Would like to thank everyone for taking the time today and being a part of this Planning Commission workshop. What we will be doing tonight is going through the different elements of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. We're in the first process of revising this plan, and it's a 20 to 2035 plan. So it's a 15-year plan that will undergird all that we do in development and planning and activities concerning the land of Putnam County. I'm Susan Roberts. I'm the chairman of the Putnam County Planning Commission, and it's our body that has been tasked with the opportunity and the responsibility of updating and revising this plan and turning it back over to the commission, the Board of County Commissioners, for their adoption, revision, adoption, and ultimately submittal to the state of Florida so that we can have our plan certified, verified, approved, and become active and become the document that we begin to use, hopefully early in 2021. We'd like to introduce a few people that are here with us tonight. Mike Brown is our guiding star, our North Star, our leader with the Putnam County Planning Department. Mike is the one who is managing the go-between between us and the consultant Kimley Horn and Associates, who are representing a contract that we have made with them. Tonight, representing them, we have Blair Knighton, who is sitting in for Brian Teeple, who was our primary investigator with the firm. We also have Jim Troyano, who is the Executive Director of Planning and Development, Land Use and Animal Control, who is with us tonight, and we appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day and out of your night to be a part of this. As we have said, if there are any questions, any concerns, please make sure you email them to mike.brown@Putnam, PUTNAM-FL.com. And Mike can take your request, your comments, and then turn them over to us so that we can share them in this commission meeting or in this meeting tonight. We also have one member of the Planning Commission with us, Joel Danzler, who is representative for District 2. And we appreciate Joel being with us. Basically, what we are doing is we are going through the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, a document that has been in place since 2010. It's normally revised every 15 years. The document undergirds how we use the land in Putnam County, whether it's designated to be commercial land, residential land, agricultural land, or conservation, or any one of the different elements. But each piece of land in Putnam County is represented on a map very similar to this. This map is the current comp plan map. And each of the colors on the map denotes a different area of land use. And those are the areas that are part of the biggest section of the comprehensive plan, talking about how we're going to use the different kinds of land and how we see this land being used over the course of the next 15 years. The different elements of land that we have, the different categories, are agriculture 1 and 2, conservation, commercial, industrial, mining, public facilities, rural center, urban reserve, rural residential, and urban services. And each of these are represented by a color on the map. Agriculture is represented by green, and it's one of the largest areas. And the light lavender, which you see down around the West Putnam County area over here, down around the area of the Ocala National Forest, that's conservation land. We also have conservation land scattered throughout the county where we have public ownership of rural land. So the categories we're going to look at tonight and we're going to talk about are the categories that are part of the comprehensive plan. Are we having trouble there? Do I need to stop?
No, it's working. We're good. I think we got it now. My camera
okay.
Shutting itself off.
Oh, technical problems always happen. The 9 elements of the comp plan are the future land use, transportation, housing, infrastructure, conservation, recreation and open space, intergovernmental coordination, capital improvements, and economic development. Those are what make up the comp plan. The comp plan is not going to magically cause Putnam County to automatically be wealthy. It's not going to make our population more affluent. It's not going to make our population grow or decrease. But it's a catalyst, it's a foundation through which ideas and through which development and changes to land use and changes to the complexion of our community can happen over the course of the next 15 years. So it's a very important document. It's a document that the County Commission uses on a regular basis. It's the document that is pulled out every time somebody comes into the Planning and Development Department and wants to build a house or wants to open a business or wants to build or bring or relocate an industry or bring commerce into Putnam County. This is the document that undergirds everything. So this is why this is so important. And you as citizens of Putnam County are who drive what we do in county government. I'm a citizen. I'm not a paid member. I'm not an elected official, but I am a citizen. And I'm here because I was appointed by a member of the County Commission. You are each citizens who each have a responsibility and a right to share your thoughts, your feelings, your concerns, because we are only going to be as strong as a county as we have public participation and citizens who are willing to be a part of making our growth, making our development, making our future the best it can possibly be. With that said, Mr. Brown has received to date one email from a citizen who would like to share her thoughts and feelings, and I would ask him at this time to read it. It's from City Commissioner Lisa Kane DeVito of Crescent City. And her thoughts are as such, Mr. Brown.
Okay, there's 5 items. I'll read each of them. Item 1, the Putnam County Comp Plan 2035 website has a lot of information, but I was not able to figure out what the proposed land use changes for South Putnam are, or to easily find where we are in the process in terms of amendments, final adoption, etc. I did see there have been a number of meetings held. Item 2, in 2019, the county held a visioning process and I participated. I hope the comp plan process will take into account the citizens' response in the visioning process. That is bolded. Across all 3 visioning locations, I remember that the high priority list were the preservation of our heritage, our rural nature, and our natural resources, including water. Item 3, for planning for future land uses and housing in South County, please remember that the city of Crescent City already has a significant infrastructure, especially water and sewer, and recreational facilities and parks, but a significant number of vacant lots and housing in need of rehabilitation. I hope that the plan will encourage those in need of middle-income housing to use areas with existing infrastructure and avoid creating suburban sprawl. Item 4, a considerable amount of low-income housing has been placed in South County, specifically in and near the city of Crescent City. For the economic health of any community, it is important to encourage a mix of residential uses so that one particular type does not predominate and the tax base can support basic services. Also, people in need of services should be afforded housing where those services are most available to them. And the final item, item 5, water. Many of the lakes of South County are rain and water table dependent and have suffered from low levels in recent years. outside of the heavy rainfall in 2017 from Hurricane Irma, period. An increased residential density in any use that needs additional water should also provide for realistic water source other than depleting our lakes and the water table. Thank you, Lisa Kane DeVito. So those are the 5 items. Just an observation from staff, outside of the specific housing concerns for the South County, we've heard a lot of these comments generally before from our various workshops we've held.
Absolutely. Her item number 2, the visioning process, was that part of the strategic plan?
Yes, it was. It was the first. I think it was one of the first steps in the strategic planning process.
Okay. And also, we need to remember that the comprehensive plan and Putnam County Comp Plan covers only the unincorporated areas of Putnam County. It does not include Crescent City, Interlochen, Willaca, Palatka, and have I missed anybody? Pomona Park. Plan covers only those areas outside of the comp plan. But Ms. DeVito, we certainly appreciate your taking the time to write Mr. Brown and to let him know your thoughts and feelings on this. And I would encourage you, if you have any questions, give one of us a call. Let us know what we can do. So we encourage you to be a part of the meeting on Tuesday night, which will focus primarily on South Putnam, but it always focuses on everywhere. Your time in letting us know your thoughts are very important. And as Mike said, many of these things have been said before. We're looking at every single part of this as something that's very, very important. And coming from you as a commissioner to hear that, Crescent City, to remind us that Crescent City has an ample infrastructure plan with water and sewer is very important. And we thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we thank you for taking the time to share this with us, both as a commissioner and as a citizen.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mike, on item 5, she speaks about lakes and water. Can you read that again for me, please?
Sure. Many of the lakes in South County are rain and water table dependent and have suffered from low levels in recent years outside of the heavy rainfall in 2017 and from Hurricane Irma. Any increases in residential density or any uses that needs additional water should also provide for realistic water sources other than depletion of lakes and the water table.
Thanks, Mike. And I'm sure if I may, kind of putting my water management district hat on, there's certainly a consumptive use permit, and the city of Crescent City has their water supply work plan completed. I'm pretty confident they have, which will address alternative water supplies. There's been a problem in the past with the city. Some people there are concerned about water being drawn from the lakes that are there. There are provisions for that, but that truly sounds like a water management district issue. Just hearing that, and maybe we can communicate with that to her so she can understand.
Absolutely, and I don't mind doing that. I've known Ms. DeVito since we were probably 5 or 6 years old. So,
she's a great lady.
Also with the water use in South Putnam, we have a number of farms that are dependent upon water, and they each have a consumptive use permit, and they each are carefully monitored through the water management district, as are the municipalities that have water systems. None of that water is drawn from the lakes. As far as I'm concerned, nothing is drawn from the lakes. It's drawn directly from the Floridian aquifer.
There are some people drawing from the lakes, not just from Crescent Lake, but there's been other lakes that people are drawing from.
Smaller ones.
And they're allowed to based on the diameter of pump, the diameter of the pipe, and the duration of time. So there are issues that can be easily addressed and have been in the past with that.
Okay. I know of some that do draw directly, but I know of many that have deep water wells and work with that. And I know the city has 2 wells that they work from At least they have 2 tanks. They probably have more than 2 wells. But Ms. DeVito, thank you so much for bringing these things to our attention. And I look forward to talking with you about your thoughts and your concerns as time goes forward. Do we have any other that have come in from anyone?
No, staff has received none, no other comments.
Thank you. Let me just briefly share with those who might be watching via YouTube the different elements and what they all mean to Putnam County. Like I said before, the land use element is by far and above the greatest of the elements. It's the most lengthy, it's the most detailed, and it covers the most ground related to how we use Putnam County. We have a finite area of land that is designated as our county. We grow and lose and grow different areas through annexation of land by the different municipalities. But pretty much there's no other changes to the land that we have. It's all we've got. And we are stewards of this land, and we have to be very careful making sure that what we do with it is in the best interest not only of the people who live here, but of the land and of the wildlife and of the environment in general. We have probably the one greatest asset going through our county that many counties in Florida and throughout the nation would envy, and that's the St. Johns River. It's a huge natural asset. It's a huge temptation to extort it, to use it the wrong way, to exploit it. But we have heard every time we've come together, we have heard our citizens say we've got to protect our natural resources. And the St. Johns River, its tributaries, and the lakes that surround it are by far our greatest natural resources in Putnam County. We may not have the beach like they do in St. Johns County or Flagler County, but we have the river. And it is a great, great asset. The second element of the comprehensive plan that we look at very carefully is transportation and traffic movement. We are lucky that we've been fortunate to work with the Florida Department of Transportation over the years, and we have some of the major corridors coming in and going out of Putnam County, either 4-laned or slated for 4-lane in the near future. We've seen the development along State Road 207 between East Palatka and the St. Johns County line. We've also seen the development some along State Road 20 as it goes out toward Gainesville. And as State Road 20 is widened from Hawthorne into Interlochen and we have that full 4-lane corridor, I think we're going to see more. I had occasion to drive that way on Monday, and the intersection of State Road 21 and State Road 20, State Road 21 and Baden-Powell Road, I think, or 20A, I can't remember which one, the furthest one out, is already beginning to develop and is already beginning to take on a nature of its own. And these are the things that happen when you have that kind of transportation. We have Highway 17 being 4-lanes right now down to past Dunn's Creek to the Hoot Owl Ridge Road. That also is going to bring a great asset to the county, as that area also has recently received water and sewer through the county's Public Works Department and Public Services area. We have seen a great deal of growth along the US 17 corridor north. We have a lot of major large land holdings in that area, but we're seeing the urban sprawl from Clay County beginning to impact that area, as well as what's happening over on 207 with sprawl coming out of St. Johns County. So these are areas that we're looking at. We're looking at transportation. At the same time, we have to look at the fact that Putnam County has a huge number of miles of unpaved roads. And this, while some think it's an asset, can also be totally the opposite and could be a huge deficit to an area for growth and development. The next area we look at is housing. And as Ms. DeVito said in her email, we do have a surplus of low-income housing throughout the county, not just in South Putnam County. But we have one of the largest per capita low-income housing existence of any county, not just in Florida, but in the entire United States. But what we need to look at is moderate income housing. We need to look at higher density housing. We need to look at housing that may be specifically geared for an aging population. We have a lot of opportunities. We have the river. A lot of the land along the river is already developed. Some of it is undevelopable. Some of it also lies within the bounds of the Ocala National Forest. So we've got a lot of things to think about when we look at housing, and we look at standards of housing, and that will come when we get into the Land Development Code, which is the next process the Planning Commission will be addressing. The next area is infrastructure. Infrastructure is what's underground, what's hidden, what's not seen normally by people, but what makes things grow above the ground. Water and sewer services, central water and sewer, public water and sewer services. Those are catalysts to growth and development. If you look at East Palatka and the corridor from the bridge to the interchange with 207, all of that development along there came largely as a result of the provision of water and sewer. Your fast food restaurants want water and sewer. Your businesses want water and sewer. And these are things that support urban service, which that area is designated. The next element, which makes up a large amount of Putnam County, is conservation. And that's where we honor our rural nature. It's where we maintain our ecological systems that support a strong environment, a positive environment, not just for wildlife, but for fauna and flora. We have a huge resource here with trails and with public lands in conservation areas. I know a number of people who are photographers who take advantage of these opportunities in these lands on a regular basis. I never knew things outside of the state forest up around Barden could be so pretty until I saw some of the pictures that a former classmate of mine took. Conservation is huge, and conservation is something we will continue to honor. Right now, conservation lands in Putnam County, they're designated, are publicly owned lands. They're owned by the county, the city, the water management district, and by the federal government, as we see with things like the Ocala National Forest. The next area is recreation and open space, and that falls just perfectly in hand with conservation. Putnam County has worked very hard over the past several years in developing parks and recreation, public parks. We just saw the dedication or the rededication of the park up north of Palatka there at the corner of 19. It's a huge asset to our county. We have a lot of boat ramps. We're also studying to see if there are more boat ramps needed to adequately and safely utilize our natural resources. We have open space where it's just green or it's just forest, which is beautiful. Intergovernmental coordination is where we deal with working with our communities of Palatka, Willaca, Crescent City, Interlochen, and Pomona Park. How we interact with them. How do we support them and how do they support us? And how do we make sure that we are getting every bit of the value from every dollar that's spent, both by the county and by the cities? Capital improvements are things like the water and sewer system, things like any kind of internet service that might be down the road for Putnam County, or things like roads are capital improvements, major improvements, facilities that are being built, major cost and capital outlay, major cost of systems that go into those buildings. You can build a building and pay a lot of money to do it, but that's only the beginning of what it's going to cost you to own and operate it. And we see that also in the county. And finally, economic development is where it all comes together and where we see the community beginning to thrive more. We see positive changes in the use of our land. We see the value of property begin to go up naturally and not just through reassessments. We see the value of the community go up, not just in our property values, but in the values of things that are intrinsic to this community: education, recreation, healthcare. All of those things go into making Putnam County what it is. And it's our goal that by the year 2035, what we are doing right now will have had at least a smidgen of input and impact on what we will see in 2035. Mike, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think you covered it all. The only thing the Putnam County does have an economic development element, and that's an optional element. It's not required. And we've had it since, I don't know if we had it from the very beginning or not, at least since 2007, 2005. It may have been from 92. I'm just not, I don't recall. But I think that shows that that's an important issue to the county by taking that step to have that as an additional element. It's not required, but the county has recognized the need and the importance of economic development. So just pointed that out. That's an optional element that the county has recognized in the past and continues that it's a priority. So they've included it in the comp plan.
Folks, I hope that, go ahead. Okay, let's tell me who they are and we'll take them one at a time. Okay, well, let's let viewer number one, what do you can admit both of them and I'll admit them by number or somehow. We do have two folks that have joined us via phone, and we look forward to talking with each of you as soon as we get you connected and get you up. And what I was going to say is those of you who may be watching on YouTube tonight, please know that you can send your comments, your questions, your concerns, your ideas into Mr. Brown, and they will be taken into consideration as the Planning Commission continues to meet and work on the revision of the comprehensive plan. Do we have folks in yet, Jacob? Okay. Those of you who may be, pardon, got one? Thank you. We appreciate your joining us. Could you give us your name and tell us a little bit about what you would like to talk about?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is Michael Woodward. I reside just outside of the municipal limits of Interlochen, so I am in fact in county territory.
Good to hear from you, Mike.
I really appreciate the introduction that you gave and the thorough explanation of not only the process, but the purpose of this exercise, what the comprehensive plan is all about. I think the comprehensive planning process is a little bit opaque to many people, and clear explanations are always good. What I wanted to what I wanted to talk about really was to reiterate some of what Ms. DeVito has already said in her email. I also was part of that 2019 visioning process. I participated in one of the sessions out here in Interlochen. And what I noticed here was consistent with what Ms. DeVito noticed, that one of the top priorities, if not the top priority of the citizens who participated, was the preservation of the rural character of our county community, what makes living here good. So, and I know you're aware of that, but I just wanted to put that reminder in there that as we think about ways to accommodate economic progress in the future, we don't want to lose what is really most important to the people who already live here, the fine rural country atmosphere and the sort of community of friendship and neighborliness that is part of that kind of community. So how do we get the best of both worlds? How do we keep all that and yet still allow for the kinds of development that are necessary in order to facilitate some economic growth that's also very important here? My general suggestion, my general view of that, which I'm sure is nothing you haven't heard before from people more qualified than I am to say it, is that the way to get the best of both is to have a comprehensive plan and stick to it that concentrates the residential densities and the intense commercial and industrial uses in areas that are already designated for that already have infrastructure available or can be made readily available, and leave the lower densities, keep the densities low in the rural areas. Our municipalities will be able to accommodate some, at least, of an increased residential density and even industrial and commercial intensities. But to the extent that they may become built out, the next logical step is to use some of the urban service areas and other areas immediately adjacent to the municipalities and the infrastructure that's usually more centrally located around them. And that's consistent also with what Mr. Vito was saying. So that's my overall suggestion and plea, I guess, is let's try to keep the best of both by keeping the densities and the intense uses out of the rural areas, but facilitating their use of the areas that are already designated for that, where the infrastructure is already available.
Thank you, Michael, and we appreciate those comments, and we appreciate all of the input that you've given the Planning Commission throughout the years. I have personally valued your input, and I'm glad that you took the time tonight to be a part of this. One comment, the visioning process is tied to the strategic plan, and that's a totally separate element and totally separate project that's being managed directly by the County Commission, not by us. But we are hoping that we will run hand in glove with that plan. But those visioning meetings were a part of that process, not a part of the comprehensive plan revision. But I'm glad to know that you participated out there.
Well, I'm trying to participate in both. And I think if the people were given the same opportunity, and I know you are giving people this sort of opportunity, but I think if the people were given the same opportunity to comment on the comprehensive plan as they were to participate in the visioning process, you'd probably hear them say pretty much the same thing.
Probably would, and I think we already have. Unfortunately, right now, our hands are tied through the COVID pandemic. We are not allowed to have in-person meetings. So we're having to do Zoom, which is a little bit of an impediment to getting good total comprehensive participation. We know that if we were able to sit down in a community room in Interlochen, we would have more people there than we have if we want to just have them come in over the phone or come in over some sort of technological media. So we're trying our best right now. This is the best thing we can do in these worst times. So we're not going to give up. We're continuing. We have another meeting scheduled next Tuesday night that is targeting more of South Putnam County. But anybody from anywhere is welcome to say anything at any time. So Michael, again, thank you very much for participating, and please don't hesitate to send your written comments into Mike, and they will ultimately be given to the commission. So thank you, and we hope you have a great evening.
And thank you for the great job that you're doing under the difficult circumstances.
It's been a challenge, but we rise to challenges. That's part of us. Jacob, do we have another nurse person who would like to come in and speak? Okay, go ahead and let them in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Would you please tell us who you are and give us some thoughts and concerns and ideas?
Yes, this is Craig Sherrar, 147 Pine Tree Road, East Palatka. I'm glad to hear Michael A. is still alive, if he's still on the phone, because I haven't heard from him in a while. And he and I attended many, many meetings back in the 2004 to 2010 period when everybody said great things are coming to Putnam County. Some of you will recall that we were going to have a 15,000 person city named after the butterfly in the middle of Cracker Swamp. Here we are 15 years later, and it seems like the Mariposa has flown the coop. I agree with Michael. I strongly agree with Michael that the core areas of Putnam County need to be fully developed and urbanized, as they in fact should be our urban areas, and they should be totally utilized. If someone were to look at all the value of all of the infrastructure that has been placed in the city of Palatka and in the county areas around the city of Palatka, the water, the sewer, the paved roads, look at the values of that, what it would cost to recreate it, it would be astronomical, and yet it is all totally unutilized. But despite that, I still feel that these kind of exercises tend to gravitate to where if we change the color of the map, what will happen is what Mr. Tibble was quoted in the paper as saying, you also recognize that growth is coming. The fact of the matter is that Putnam County, along with a few other counties, in the last 10 years have either seen no growth or negative growth. Mm-hmm. If you look at the thing called the rural centers, and I haven't looked at the map in a little while, but the rural centers used to be perfectly round. And I often wondered, why is it that we have a designation that is perfectly round? And Kenny Eubanks, who was part of that process that created the rural centers, said that one of the members took a coffee cup, placed it over every major intersection of every major road, drew a circle, and that's how we got rural centers. While the rural centers have been limited somewhat, it would be nice to see them disappear, because what they do is they put out in the middle of the rural areas intensity of uses which are not only inappropriate but not well planned. And if anybody doubts that, in the rural centers you will have one person's piece of property which will be bisected by two different comp plan uses because the coffee cup did not have squares to take into account square properties. Mr. Chairman, I must congratulate you on your comments. I thought they were very interesting, but unfortunately, I believe that some of your analysis should be looked at a little more closely. You talked about State Road 20, and State Road 20 is going 4 lanes. And since I first came to Putnam County over 20 years ago, I've heard the refrain, oh, we are being held back because we are not allowed to 4-lane State Road 20. First, State Road 20 is not a road in failure. It is a level C service. State Road 20 is being widened as a hurricane evacuation route. It is not because of too much development. But history tells us and proves that the creation of 4-lane roads does not in and of itself mean there's going to be development. How many years ago was State Road 17 4-laned to Green Cove? And how many new businesses are on State Road 17? State Road 207, again, 4-laned over almost 20 years ago, almost no new construction. The major new construction on State Road 207 was the fire department put in by the county. I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I'm just saying that the mere 4-laning of roads does not constitute a panacea towards growth. While I agree that the creation of infrastructure in East Palatka has caused new development in East Palatka, we have gotten ourselves a Dunkin' Donuts, a Popeyes, and a Taco Bell. We are probably the only city in the state of Florida, let alone the entire United States, which, as you correctly pointed out, Madam Chairman, the importance of the resource of the river. But what have we done with that resource? We put a Taco Bell and a Popeyes. Anywhere else in the state, some development connected to the use of the river, be it condominiums, would have gone in, and we have gone the fast food route. Those properties are lost to the county for 20, 30, or 40 years, because once those fast food places go in, that's the end of it. If we go into 19, which is the commercial corridor in the city of Palatka, what have we gotten? A car wash, a Captain D's, and a Firehouse Subs that's been under construction for over 2 years. It takes something else, and the community must recognize what it is. And it's not wrong to be rural. And Madam Chairman, when you were talking about your comments about what it takes about development, I agree with those wholeheartedly. But it is more important that the quality of the jobs be increased than the number of jobs when you are in a community which is stagnant population. It would be more to this community for the average income to go up $10,000 than it would be to add 20,000 people to the county. First of all, it would be easier to increase the median income than it would be to increase population, because the population is just not coming. As an example of a failure of planning, and I don't remember if Mike was here when this happened, but look at your future land use map at the intersection of 20A and East Cowpen Lake Road. You have a PUD there for a subdivision, and I was there and I argued against it, and I own the rat factory out that way, and comments were made about people releasing my rats into the subdivision. Nothing has happened with that property. And I think that the board should be very mindful about that, because it proves, A, just because you change the color on the map, and just because you want to change the color on the map, and just because you buy a piece of property with the sole intention of changing the color on the map, it's not going to happen. If it's not organic, it's not going to happen. And just because you choose a location without planning and hopes, and hope is not a plan. We need to be realistic. I would like, or I would hope, which I shouldn't say this about what I'm about to say, but hope, contrary to what one former president said, is not a plan. It is not a strategy. And instead of hoping that something would happen, I think that instead of a broad change of what we have, we should be looking at what we have, because nothing has changed. Little has changed. And since what we have has not invoked change in the last 10 years, the last 15 years, the last 20 years, we should, like I said, concentrate on the core areas where it is likely that development will happen in the urban areas, and leave the rural areas the way it is, leave it unique. There's talk that because of the COVID, that there's going to be a movement of mass migration from the cities to the rural areas, but that means people want to live in the rural areas. They don't want to live in the outskirts in an urbanized area. They want to live in a rural area. And if you allow for urbanized development in the rural areas, you are destroying that which we have, and so many of those communities around us do not have. And I appreciate that you, A, have allowed me to be long-winded. I appreciate, like I say, Madam Chairman, I appreciate your comments. I agreed with many things that you said, which I did not agree with what was being said 10, 15 years ago. And I hope you all keep up doing the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. It's good to hear from you again also, as well as Michael. As you know, we are looking at this as a holistic process and not just individual pieces of it. And it is our intent that we will make sure that the rural nature of our county is front foremost in this plan, and that we honor and utilize our land in a planned way, in a logical way. And many of the things that you have talked about are things that we've talked about as well. So I thank you very much for being a part of this, you and Michael both. And if you have any more comments, please feel free to email them into Michael or to Mike Brown, and he will pass them on to the Planning Commission. Jacob, do we have anyone else who has joined us? Well, I want to thank everyone who is watching on YouTube. I want to thank Mr. Sherrar and Mr. Woodward for taking their time to come in, and thank Ms. Kane DeVito for taking the time to write her comments and send them in to Mr. Brown earlier. This is not a process that's finished. We are ongoing. We are looking at comments that come in from each one of our meetings. This is the 4th meeting we've had, and it is our intent to have the one more. We're trying to cover as much of Putnam County as we can with these meetings, understanding that we do have a limitation that we must continue to meet via Zoom or some sort of social media. We're not allowed to be back in person in the commission chambers, which I assure you is the wish and intent of every single member of the Planning Commission. Joel Danzler, if you're still here, do you have any comments that you would like to add? Mike Brown, anything you would like to add in summation?
No, I'm good.
Jim Troyano.
No, ma'am, other than that we have the meeting next week, which would be identified for Crescent City as well as any one in the unincorporated area of Putnam County, 6 o'clock next week.
And we'll certainly listen to people who live in the incorporated areas. That's because they travel through the unincorporated areas all the time. Mike and Jim, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate each one of you and the things that you do for Putnam County, for the Planning Commission. You have made this process so much easier, and working with you is a pure joy. And I look forward to our meeting Tuesday night, which again will be at 6 o'clock via Zoom. Anyone is listening who wants to join then, please just call the county or email the county, email Mr. Brown. He will be glad to give you the information. Again, his email address is mike.brown@putnam-fl.com. So with that said, I will adjourn this meeting and thank everyone for their participation and for the time they've taken to be a part of this tonight. Good night.
Thank you, Madam Chair.